What's going on, guys? My name is Nick and welcome to Nick Talks Batman. In today's video, we are going to talk about who I think will be the next villain in the Batman Part 2. So remember, nothing official has been said about who the next villain will be in the Batman Part 2. The only thing that we know is that the Penguin will be in Batman Part 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to address the characters that have been rumored to be in the Batman Part 2. I'm going to give you my take on those rumors, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my number one pick of who I think will be the villain in the Batman Part 2, and I'm pretty sure that this person will definitely be the villain that will be in the Batman Part 2, so stick around till the end of the video, and I will tell you my number one choice. Alright guys, let's talk Batman and let's unmask this secret villain. So the Batman Part 2 will officially start filming in early 2025. However, we don't know the plots about the film. Matt Reeves and his team has been super secret about this next film. Now all we know about the plot is that it does take place in winter shortly after the first Batman film. We know that the Penguin will be in it, and the new Penguin show, I believe, will be what connects the Batman Part 2 to the first Batman. And it's going to be kind of like a segue between the two films. And I think what will happen is, in the Penguin, we will find out who the next villain will be. So until we know who the next villain will be, let's address some of the rumors on some of the villains that have been rumored to be in the Batman Part 2. So the first rumored villain I want to talk about is Clayface. So Clayface is yet another great Batman villain out of Batman's Rogues Gallery, and he's a really great villain. He has been linked to the Batman Part 2, so could this actually work? So Matt Reeves has created this very realistic world, very similar to Chris Nolan's realistic world from the Dark Knight trilogy. And given how Clayface's character is, I don't see how that's going to happen. Remember that Clayface can pretty much shapeshift into any shape he wants or any human that he wants. And he's basically a big pile of clay. He's a great character, but I don't see how Matt Reeves can pull that off and place him in that realistic world. The only possible way I could see them pulling off Clayface is maybe taking the original character of Clayface, who is known as Basil Karlo, as an actor who wants to take revenge on his former castmates. Maybe they can do something like that. And also, he was in the new Batman Caped Crusader cartoon series, and they could take that route, but I just don't see that as a compelling story to mix into the Batman Part 2. I don't see how he would fit in, and I just don't think it's a good idea. So I'm going to say no to Clayface. So the next villain I want to address is Mr. Freeze. So Mr. Freeze has been rumored to be in the Batman Part 2, and it was confirmed that this next Batman film will take place in winter. So once people heard that this next film will take place in winter, a lot of people automatically think, oh, well, it's got to be Mr. Freeze. Not so fast. I'm not sure if Mr. Freeze, again, would fit into Matt Reeves' realistic world. Now, Mr. Freeze, once again, another great villain, but keep in mind that Mr. Freeze cannot live without being in sub-zero temperatures, so that's the reason for his big suit that he wears, and also his weapon of choice is the freeze gun, so I just don't see how they would be able to pull that off. However, they did pull off the Riddler in the first one. He's not as fantastical as Mr. Freeze is, but he's kind of an out there character, but they were able to make it a lot more realistic and a lot more dark. So how could they do that for Mr. Freeze? An interesting fan theory that I read that they could possibly make Mr. Freeze into this realistic character and fit into Matt Reeves' world, they could take inspiration from a real life serial killer, and his name was Richard Kuklinski. And basically, what he did was one of his victims he froze in a freezer, and after that, he got the nickname the Iceman. So maybe they could do something like that for his character. Instead of using that freeze gun, he can freeze his victims in freezers, or since it is taking place in winter, he can bury alive the victims in the snow. The trouble that they'll have with this is how will they visually pull off Mr. Freeze? I mean, that freeze suit is a big part of him, it's a big part of their character, and they're just going to have to strip the character down so much. And with that being said, I don't think that's going to work, so I'm going to say no to Mr. Freeze. So now I'm going to start getting into characters that have a major possibility of being in the next Batman film. And one of the characters I'm going to talk about right now is Hush. Hush is a realistic character that Matt Reeves could definitely fit into the Batman Part 2 into his realistic world. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Hush, or they're a little bit rusty on their Batman history, Hush was a character that actually grew up with Bruce Wayne as a child. Like Bruce Wayne, he grew up into a wealthy family. So the fact that he grew up into a wealthy family, his goal was to kill his parents, and that way he could inherit their wealth. However, Thomas Wayne, being a doctor and a surgeon, he was able to prevent his parents from dying. So Bruce's father, he saves Thomas Elliot's mother's life, and that leads to a huge grudge against the Wayne family. So when he gets older, Thomas Elliot, he does turn to a life of crime, and his goal is to kill off the Waynes. So fighting crime, he takes on the persona of Hush. He wraps his face in bandages to conceal his identity. He eventually becomes friends with the Riddler, and the Riddler discloses Batman's identity, Bruce Wayne. So this definitely can work. He is a realistic character. He would definitely work in the realistic world that Matt Reeves has created. The other thing is, in the comics, Hush was a big ally of the Riddler. As I stated before, the Riddler tells Hush Batman's real identity, and the fact that the Riddler was in the first film, that could connect both of these films together if Hush is in fact in the Batman Part 2. So I'm sure Hush knows a lot of secrets about Batman, knowing the fact that he is friends with the Riddler, and also, remember, this guy grew up with Batman, or Bruce Wayne, and I'm sure he knows a lot of stuff as well. So, kind of like the first one where the Riddler uncovers all these secrets about Gotham and the Wayne family, well, the same thing could happen with Hush. However, Hush is not my number one pick for the Batman Part 2. Alright, in the moment you've all been waiting for, my number one choice of who I think will be the new villain in the Batman Part 2. To me, it's very obvious on who the next villain is going to be if you've been paying close attention. Now, this villain, or villains, I should say, have not made their debut yet on the big screen, and that group of villains is the Court of Owls. The Penguin is going to be the main guy that connects all of this together. Here's what Matt Reeves had to say recently. There are details that actually connect right into the way the next movie begins, and the way that Oz enters that world as we hand the baton back to Batman, and Batman is on another case. In The Penguin, Oswald's last name is revealed as Cobb. Now, William Cobb is a member of the Court of Owls, and he is one of the most notable assassins in that group. Obviously, they have some kind of relation the Penguin and William Cobb. And I think what's going to happen is towards the end of the Penguin show, Penguin is basically going to be on the brink of gaining control of the city. However, he has one major problem, and that problem is Batman. Batman is the only thing that's standing between him and Gotham City. And I think what's going to happen is he is going to employ William Cobb, his brother, or however they're related. He's going to employ him to take down the Batman. Another clue, if you missed it in the first Batman film, Batman gets a greeting card from the Riddler, and on the greeting card is an owl. So to me, that is not just a random thing. I think Matt Reeves put that in there for a reason, and Matt Reeves did say that there are clues in the Penguin and in the first Batman that tell you what's going to happen in the next film. The Court of Owls are a fairly new villain in the Batman world. Their first appearance was in 2011, and basically they are a group of wealthy people. They are a secret organization, and they basically control everything that goes down in Gotham behind the scenes. Nobody knows about them, though. Now, inside the group, there are a ton of assassins. They are highly trained, highly skilled assassins, and they are known as Talons. Now, they're good with knives, they're good with swords, any kind of fighting style. And in the last Batman film, he really wasn't challenged physically, so I think this is a great move. These assassins are deadly assassins, and he's going to have his work cut out for him in this next film physically. So if you want to learn more about the Court of Owls, I highly recommend Batman Volume 1, The Court of Owls, and there is pretty much their origin story. Highly recommend it. It's really a great comic book. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.